Welcome in, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Taping this on a Wednesday before Turkey Day. Hope everybody's fired up. Turkey Day, one of my favorite holidays. It's great get-together with family. You're going to eat well. My favorite food, for those who are inquiring, sweet potatoes. Though truth be told, I eat sweet potatoes like 3 or 4 nights a week anyhow. I love baked sweet potatoes. So anyhow, happy Thanksgiving. We'll get rolling here. First, big shout out to Huntington Bank. As we like to tell you, they are emerging in every corner of our state. They're one of the fastest growing banks in the country. Huntington Bank. Go check them out, huntingtonbank.com. And Steel, S-T-I-H-L, SteelUSA.com. Been telling you about Steel for a number of years, the place to go to improve your property in all aspects. That's Steel, S-T-I-H-L. All right, we're underway, and big news this morning. Jim Mora hired by Colorado State. There were so many names, as is typical, especially with social media these days, that were thrown out there as prospective coaches to take over in Fort Collins. And you heard about Colin Klein, who's from Loveland, Colorado, went to K-State as a player and has done marvelous things as an offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. That was one of the more prominent names. You heard the North Dakota State coach, his name mentioned, though he just signed an extension up there at NDSU. There were a number of names that were coming up frequently, number of top assistants, that sort of thing. The one name that I had not heard is Jim Mora. He's known as Jim Mora Jr. It's not exactly as Jim Mora Jr. Of course, his father was a tremendous coach and maybe is most famous for playoffs. You remember that quote. But Jim Mora Jr., if you will, has had a great career. And Jim Mora Jr., I think he's 20 games over 500 as a college coach, most notably at UCLA, where they hadn't been getting anything done. And especially the first few years when he was at UCLA, he was cranking out, top 12 recruiting classes and winning a lot of football games. He was there for 6 years. He's been a head coach in the NFL. He has always been extremely well thought of. And then you look at his recent resume at UConn. And for those that don't know, UConn was a rarity, kind of like Notre Dame, an FBS independent. They were not a member of a league. And they had not been very good for a number of years. He took over 4 years ago, and in the last 3 years, they win 9 football games each year. They go to 3 bowl games in 4 years. He's obviously stepping aside right now. They're at 9-3 presently, and the 3 games they lost were all in overtime. So he has made them not only competitive, but they're winning games. I've never heard anyone say anything disparaging about Jim Mora as a coach, whether it be at the college level or even in the NFL. I know the Atlanta thing was a little strange, ended there. He was doing an interview after, a pretty solid year one and said that his be-all, end-all job was University of Washington because his dad had been there and he kind of grew up there, went to high school in that area and went to college there. He was a walk-on football player. And Arthur Blank ultimately didn't like that. And so bought him out of, I think he had like 4 years left on his contract. But in the college ranks, he's been terrific. And his most recent stay was in Storrs, Connecticut. And I know that this is a good hire for a variety of reasons, but the people back east who follow UConn, including probably led by Dan Orlovsky, they're like, what? You're going to Colorado State? How is that a better move? And if you're looking from afar, you're probably saying the same thing. Maybe people in the state, our state, are saying the same thing. How's that a better move? UConn's won 9 games, 3 of the last 4 years. Colorado State is awful right now. I mean, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong this year. Their best moments were in their opener, the first 3 quarters of the season against Washington. Interestingly enough, they were very competitive with a pretty decent Huskies team until the Huskies pulled away in the fourth quarter. Since that moment in time, they've been flat awful. Should have lost to Northern Colorado. That game, was a robbery of epic proportions, especially if you're a Bears fan in Greeley. And the only game they've won was against Fresno State, and they turned it over 5 times, if memory serves me accurately. It's been an awful season. And then the Curry situation, and the young man apologized, as he should, for spitting on a Boise State player. But everything has been an absolute embarrassment up there. So you see, why on earth would somebody go there? Well, a couple of reasons. He grew up part of the time, talking about Coach Mora, in Boulder. I think, age 7 to 12, he was in Boulder when his dad was part of the Buffs staff. Colorado, as we know, is a beautiful place. Canvas Stadium, and they sold it out several times this year, even with a terrible football team. Really, really good on-campus stadium. Colorado State is going to the Pac-12. We talked about the ties Jim Mora has to the West Coast, and specifically UCLA and Washington, his alma mater. So it's a natural recruiting base. You have to recruit California. Everybody recruits California, but especially if you're out west. The new Pac-12, I'm glad Colorado State's going. I'm a little bit of a cynic when it comes to, hey, it's the Pac-12. It is a name brand, but it's not the Pac-12 of USC, of UCLA, of the aforementioned Washington Huskies. It's a lot of Mountain West teams. They're adding Texas State. They'll be really good in hoops because Mountain West is always good in hoops, and Gonzaga will be involved. But specifically talking about football, it seems like a quarter step, maybe a half step. We'll ultimately find out if it's a full large step in the right direction for the schools that will comprise the new Pac-12 beginning next year. But all of those factors, and then some probably unknown factors, contributed to why Jim Mora left UConn, and what made the move, which seemed lateral to a lot of people, to Fort Collins. There has to be assurances from John Weber and Amy Parsons. Amy Parsons, the president of the university, John Weber, the relatively new athletic director, both very aggressive. They understand the importance of athletics, and specifically the importance of football to the overall fiscal health of a university, to the image of a university. And he had to have gotten assurances that they are going to have a strong NIL, one of the strongest in the group of 5, because we've heard for years how Colorado State aspires to be in the originally Power 5, now the Power 4. We've heard, even in the last 24 hours, that they want to be a team, a school that can be in the running, if they're in the group of 5, to be that team that emerges and goes to the college football playoffs. So they have grand plans, high aspirations. And as I said, we've heard this for a while, and all they've done is run through coach after coach. Now, I thought Jay Norvell was going to do a really good job. I was wrong. He did not. There's no denying that. And it's headed the wrong direction. And now they get a guy that is a proven winner. He's a proven builder of programs, again, going back to UCLA, most recently with UConn. So if you're a Ram fan, you have to be excited. I saw a number of hardcore Buffs fans and some ex-Buff players on there who said, hey, good hire. And you know that they're doing that begrudgingly. I even saw some mentions from folks who follow the Pokes up north of the border in Wyoming. Good hire. It's a great hire. And I was less concerned with if they hired the right younger coach and they ended up utilizing it as a stepping stone, kind of like Jim McElwain did when he won 10 football games a decade ago and then moved on to Florida. Because to move on and to utilize a program a mid-level program like Colorado State, and they're not mid-level right now. They're horseshit right now, and they need to get back to mid-level and then rise from there. And I hope this is the right first move. I think it really will be. But even if you had a coach that was not Jim Mora and ultimately moved on, the reason they move on is because they're successful, and you can build on that. Boise State's done that. They've lost coaches, and they still maintained excellence at the mid-major level. Jim Mora is 64. So if he turns this around, hopefully quickly as he did at UConn, I mean, it was like almost overnight, he's probably not going anywhere. He's probably looking at this and saying, what a beautiful place to live. I'm going to make a lot of money. I mean, Colorado State pays well. They're not going to pay you like you're in the SEC or the Big Ten, but he's going to make a couple million plus or so. And I'm sure there's a lot of incentives built into it in addition to whatever that 7-figure salary is, but it's going to be north of 2. And he's going to a new conference, and it's a new challenge, and it's a place he knows well. So it was a huge, huge victory for Colorado State in football, and they ain't had one of those in a long, long time. I unabashedly root for Colorado State. I've said this on the podcast in the past. When I first started doing play-by-play, it was in the late 80s with the late Tom Graham on Colorado State football, did their hoops for a number of years as well. So they always will have a special place, in my heart. And it's been, like all of you good Rams fans, it's been tough to watch over the last few years by and large. So I'm really excited about the hire of Jim Mora. And as I stated off the top, I didn't see this one coming. Not that I was privy to what was going on behind the scenes, but nobody had heard Jim Mora's name mentioned as somebody that was going to leave UConn. And if he did, you would assume it would have been for a Power 4 job. So good for John Weber, and good for Amy Parsons, and good for Colorado State. I want to talk very quickly about the Avs and the Nuggets. Both are off to phenomenal starts, but in particular the Avalanche. The Avalanche have one loss as we tape this on a Wednesday afternoon. They're at home tonight against San Jose. One regulation loss. That's it. This has been a remarkable, and that's not an overstatement, start for the Avs. And the consistency in how they play every night, I attribute to 92 Gabe Landeskog. The stats aren't flowery. I attribute it to Gabe Landeskog and the greatness, not only the talent of Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar, but in MacKinnon, you have a guy that's got Michael Jordan in him. He's the best player on the ice every night, and he also is the best competitor on the ice most every night. And so you couple the aforementioned Makar and MacKinnon and Landeskog's presence every night. He hasn't missed yet. I figured he would, every couple games take one off because it's the first full season coming off missing 3 years other than the playoffs of last year. And he didn't participate, as you know, initially in the playoffs. So they've been a blast to watch. And I remind Zach, who was on with me last week, who's, like all of you, huge Avalanche fan, you have to enjoy every aspect of the season, all 82 regular season games, because they're so much fun to watch. Yes, you want to see a parade ultimately, and people will say nothing matters until, mid-late April rolls around and the Stanley Cup playoffs begin. And I get that. But if you're a true fan of the sport, and a true fan specifically of the Avalanche, you got to love watching them, 2-3 times a week. They're special. Nuggets, even without Brown, even with, unfortunately, Gordon being down for in the neighborhood of 6 weeks with soft tissue injury, a hamstring, they're winning basketball games, especially out on the road. Jokić, it's going to be an end-of-the-season situation again. Jokić should be, could be, will be the MVP. I know it's early. I hate having these conversations this early. The guy he's a walking triple-double. And if you, who was the team recently that decided, it was Tyrone Lue and the Clippers. They said, you know what, we're not going to let him pass. We're going to really cover the shit out of everyone else, and that's going to be our strategy. And he went for like 25 in the first quarter. He ended up with 55 that night, and the Nuggets won. So that strategy didn't work out well. And then if you double him, he's behind the back. He's no look. He's Magic Johnson at 7 feet. He's phenomenal. And it's just run out of words, run out of adjectives to describe how great he is. So it's really been a blast watching the two teams at Pepsi Center, Ball Arena, forgive me, so far this year. All right, Warren Schaeffer's coming up here in a moment. I want to say this. Typically, I refuse to get into Twitter wars, and I didn't this time around. But when it was announced yesterday that Warren Schaeffer was named the full-time manager of the Rockies, many of you, not all of you, but many of you, when I praised Warren in a tweet saying that he is extremely bright, very innovative, a great communicator, really well respected, an uncompromising work ethic, and I kind of sung his praises. And a lot of people push back with, "Hey, same old Rockies. All right, so they hired Paul DePodesta, but now they're regurgitating another person. They're not hiring outside of their little family." And I want to say that I do understand your sentiment, because it's been so bad on the field for certainly the last 3 years, but going back to 2018, the last time they fielded a winning team, a team that went to the playoffs. So I get that. I really do. But I will remind you, and here's my little pushback, and I say this with great respect. My pushback is this. Whoever you think is the greatest manager in the sport, Dave Roberts, won 3 championships with, great Dodger teams. Bruce Bochy, who's seemingly now retired, but won with Texas a couple of years ago, 2010, 2012, 2014 with the Giants. Go way back. Connie Mack. Go way back. Earl Weaver. Whatever name you want to come up with as the greatest manager of all time. Casey Stengel. They wouldn't win squat with the Rockies of 2025, the Rockies of 2024, the Rockies of 2023. They didn't have enough talent. And as we sit right now, they don't have enough talent to be a contender yet. And that's, largely going to fall now on Paul DePodesta. You can't do it overnight, but the process begins with a fresh set of eyes, and there'll be more eyes looking on as Paul builds his staff. And so he said, in getting to know Warren Schaeffer, evidently, I like this young guy. I like the energy he brings. I like his vision. And let's run with this as we start the process. Once again, you have to have talent to win in any sport, and especially in baseball. Especially in baseball. And so you can say, oh, yeah, you're touting the company line. Yeah, you work down there, and so you see Schaeffer every day. That's why you like him. Schaeffer's different. Schaeffer, I think you're going to see over a period of time, especially as the talent is upgraded, the ability to utilize that talent and get the most out of that talent and be more aggressive and play a fun and hopefully winning brand of baseball. But it takes talent. I'll never come off of that. And football, I think the coach in football, the head coach, makes the biggest difference in creating culture, and because there's so much more in the X's and O's in football than any other sport. But look no further than Bill Belichick, who's going to be looked upon in many circles as the greatest NFL coach of all time. He was great in New England. when he had Tom Brady. And does he deserve some credit for the emergence of a sixth-round pick in Tom Brady, who took over for Drew Bledsoe when Bledsoe went down? Of course he does. And for, building that culture and turning it into a dynastic culture, absolutely he does. But after Brady decided, or the Patriots decided to move on from Brady, and Brady ultimately finished his career in Tampa with a world championship, as we know, New England wasn't very good. So the proverbial line, did Bill Belichick get stupid overnight? No, he didn't have the same talent. And he didn't have great talent at the most important position in all of sports, quarterback. So I'm not suggesting to you right now we'll find out more about Warren Schaeffer, but give him a chance. And let's see the Rockies acquire more talent and also hopefully mold some of these young players into winning players at the big league level. So that's my take on that. And again, for all the cynicism that was sent out when the Rockies decided to continue with Warren Schaeffer, that's my rebuttal. Warren Schaeffer is going to join us right now, and this is literally less than 24 hours after he got word that the interim tag was removed. Schaeffer, first and foremost, congratulations, man.
Thanks, Drew. Appreciate it. Look forward to working with you further, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. What was your mindset? I mean, the season ended. I think most people, unless you're involved in baseball, don't realize that you went right down to Arizona, the Arizona Fall League. So what's life been like the last couple of months since the end of the season?
I didn't go to the Fall League. I went to Instructs right after and spent a week down there with the young players. After that, I flew straight to vacation with my family in Florida, which was nice. It was nice to get away for a little bit. Came back home, winterized the yard, did some projects around the house, and just spent time with my family, which is sorely missed during the season, as you well know.
Yeah. Honestly, were you're a pretty even keeled guy, but was there pins and needles wondering, hey, am I going to be back next year in the same capacity, or will something be different?
Yeah, sure. I think, we're all waiting. The whole staff is waiting. But for me, Drew, knowing what I know about Paul so far, you have to respect that process. You have to, because he's thoughtful, he's deliberate, and he wants to make the right decision. And it's a big decision. To this spot I'm in is a big decision to make for him. And you want him to take his time.
Did you feel like you hit it off pretty quickly? How would you characterize the getting to know one another period?
Yeah, I would say so. I think pretty early on in the conversations, it seemed like we were fairly lined up with our visions of moving forward and what needs to be done, and how we're going to work together. I think that was pretty like immediately, almost. He feels like a really easy guy to get along with. I'm going to love working for someone that has a good vision moving forward. So all good stuff with Paul.
I don't know what you're privy to in your role, but leading up to the announcement that Paul was hired, was that a name on your radar? And what were your initial reactions based on, I'm sure, being in the game a long time, knowing his history?
I'm not going to lie to you, Drew. I mean, I read Moneyball years and years ago, but I didn't recognize the name. Just is what it is. But then learning and who he is and where he's been, and all the stuff that he's been through, it's very exciting. And I love the hire by Walker in terms of a little outside the box, bringing him from the NFL. I mean, they did their homework, their background. It just seems like a solid move going forward.
Yeah, and he has this long tradition, if you will, or reputation for following analytics, and was on the cutting edge, if you will, a number of years ago. How does that align with how you think?
Yeah, I think Big time. But, for me, Drew, all the conversations I've had with him, he's a people person first and foremost. I know he loves the data and the analytic of the game. A lot of us do. And that's a tool, and that's a part of it. It's just going to be cool to see how he, kind of constructs the team based on his beliefs and in all of that. But he's not like, at least from my 3 weeks of experience with him, he's not like this big analytical nerd who you can't get to know,
Yeah. Without taking us, I suppose, as far behind the curtain as you can, what are conversations like in the get to know you period, and focusing on roster building and that sort of thing?
Mm-hmm. We haven't talked about roster building. Yeah, I'm sure he's talking about that with other people up to this point, but just the culture that we want to drive. I can't really get too deeply into it with you, Drew, but first of all, he asked me all about my family and my history, and got to know me like that the first couple times, and we talked about what we look for in staff members, and just got to know each other in that way. But our vision in terms of what wins at Coors Field, what we believe wins at Coors Field, it lines up.
Yeah, I know you can't, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but will there be changes potentially on your staff?
Yeah, I think. I mean, there already has been. Daryl Scott got fired earlier this fall. Dustin Garneau went to the Atlanta Braves. So there's your pitching coach and your bullpen coach, which we have to fill with new people, internal, external candidates. There could be some other changes along the way there. So we have to look at it as a holistic endeavor, and see what the best fit is going to be for our club, for our players, because that's the most important, Drew. You know that. It's how can we get the right people for the players?
How much and what did you learn specifically, as now you've had time to reflect over the last 45 to 60 days from the period when you took over from Buddy?
What did I learn?
Yes.
I learned, Drew, an insane amount. I learned stuff every day on that job.
Right.
Every day.
What was most prominent in terms of what you thought it would be and what it actually was, and then taking that and what you want to implement going into February of this year?
Sure. I learned how important it is to prepare right. And then when you try to make adjustments in season in your preparation, how you prepare the players, how you prepare yourself, how you prepare the staff to try to win that night in that series. You make adjustments throughout the year to get better at that and try to get more streamlined. And then when you step out of it, you look back over the whole picture that you went through, and realize there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that we were missing in terms of our preparation for everything that we can get better at.
When you look at specifics to culture, we say this in every sport, as you know, Warren. For you, what makes a good culture beyond, hey, when you win a lot of games, everybody always says, man, they got a good culture, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, hockey, right? Man, great culture over there with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots years ago, right?
Right. No, when I think of good culture, I think of specifically in our sport, you think of the big leagues, AAA, AA, high A, low A, everybody with the same thought process moving forward that believes in a system that works. And we're in a position right now where it feels like a fresh start, that this whole culture can be implemented by Paul. I'll have a big part in driving that from the top down. It all depends on what you want to put into it, a culture. How much do you want to work? And we need tireless workers on the staff and throughout the organization to drive that culture, what we want. We need ideas. We need forward thinkers. We just need just a relentless attack on all fronts, basically.
Do you have absolutes for you that you've always had maybe in your hip pocket? Because again, managing is not new to you. You've led before. This was
Mhm.
the first time leading at the big league level. But again, taking what you learned over the last 4 months and now being able to sit back when you first meet with the group that will comprise the spring training and at least initial roster. Some of the notes you're going to pass forward in that first meeting in that theater.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be all winter developing that, Drew. But I mean the thing that stands out to me is it's their team. I mean that's the ultimate absolute. They're the ones that drive the culture, the players. The more leaders that you can develop, and that's a big part of the staff that we're going to try to create is staff that can develop leaders. The more leaders that you can create, the more people are held accountable. The more that goal and sacrifice for that goal. I think the better and the quicker good things are going to happen here,
Right.
and that's going to be probably first and foremost is empowering the players. Empowering the players. There is not too little that they can say, or too much that they can say, or do to make it their own ship.
Yeah,
And
I've said this many times.
get what they want out of it.
Right. I've said this many times, Warren, through the years, really in every sport, but particularly in baseball. You can be the reincarnation of Connie Mack or Tony La Russa or whoever you hold, Earl Weaver, whoever you hold in the highest regard. More recently, maybe Bruce Bochy, four-time champion. You have to have talent. You have to have talent.
Sure.
And maybe one of the hardest elements of this sport is to look at a young player, whether they be in the minor leagues or maybe a young player at the big league level, and say, that player is going to be part of the solution.
Sure. Yeah, that is hard. That is hard. But the one advantage that we had from last year is a lot of those young players got to show who they are on the field, and a lot of them with big sample sizes too. I mean, that was one of the goals from last year is to see as many of these guys as we can and see if they fit in the future. And a lot of the guys showed up, and a lot of the guys we say, hey, these guys can get better. And we believe that they're going to get better, and that's part of bringing in some new staff. And can we unlock the most out of these guys? But yeah, I mean, you're right. Talent wins. But the other part of that is the culture that you drive that we already talked about. I mean, that's a force multiplier, Drew. I mean, you can get so much more than just talent out of your team by the people that surround them.
Yeah, I know a big aspect of how you like to play the game is to be, more aggressive running the bases. One of the names that jumps out at me, and he just re-signed, and that's Josh Naylor with Seattle. Josh Naylor may not be able to beat me in a 60-yard dash right now. I hope he can. I really do hope he can, because
Drew, he could.
Thank you. Well, that's nice. I was hoping you backed me up a little bit, but anyhow, you're right. He should be able to beat my ass still. But here's the deal. He was, I think, 30 out of 32 swiping bags. He's in the bottom 5% of runners in Major League Baseball. Is that something that you look at and say, man, we have to be much better in swiping bases, being aggressive?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the Josh Naylor there and what he did last year. That's the embodiment of searching and using all of the tools at your disposal. Those bags just didn't come randomly for him. I mean, they're sought out. He knows who he can get. He knows his own skill set. He knows who holds the ball too long. He's a big movement before action guy. He gets out there and he's gone before you even lift your leg, because you kind of, guys don't think he's going to run. But that is exactly what we need to do. That's what I'm talking about, preparation. We need to prepare better and then implement it in the game better. And we will. I mean, that's non-negotiable. We absolutely will. But it's getting you look up and down our roster with guys that played last year, and there's a lot of bags left out there. And we're going to get better at that. And that, everything.
When you look at beginning to have a nucleus, I would assume, I don't want to put words in your mouth, for you with position players, it starts with Goodman behind the plate, one would imagine.
Do you say that just because you share the same last name?
Listen, Warren, you know that kid, every time he hits a bomb, is my nephew.
I know. Yeah, I've heard you say that before. Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the leader. He's in the right position behind the plate to lead. In my opinion, I think he can play more often this year. I think he wants to more at bats, in the DH spot when he can't catch that day. He wants to be pushed. I think he's got the skills, internal skills to be a leader, and he wants to. And that's he had an incredible year last year, and he wants it. He wants it bad. So yes, of course, it starts with Goody. It starts with Tovey. It starts with BD, and everybody talks about it starting up the middle. I mean, those are your guys there. You expect Beck to take another jump forward. Mickey, we're talking offensively right now. Freeman. I mean, these guys can be winning players on a winning team.
Yeah, and that's certainly where it begins. When you look at player acquisition, and you're a part of that. Obviously, that begins with Paul, and we'll talk to Paul about that. Do you imagine that that will be there'll be some significant changes going forward when you look at the people that gather in February under your leadership?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Drew. That I can say that I would, knowing Paul, I think he's going to do everything in his power to make changes that he thinks are necessary.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know exactly what we're going to look like this spring yet.
Yeah.
But I look forward to it.
Who do you admire managerial wise in the game right now?
AJ Hinch, Alex Cora. Obviously Tito is the best. Skip's really good. I mean, it's up and down. There's a ton of them. There's a ton of, but Hinch, I love the way Hinch runs a game. I love the way he communicates with his players.
Mm-hmm. Are there additional specifics? AJ, one of his big things is talking about pockets in the lineup, and
yeah, I mean, yeah. I think most managers do. They think that way, but he has, I mean, ways that he looks at it that are unique and cool for sure.
Do you spend any time in your off season, and especially now that you're the full-time manager, where you'll reach out to folks that you have a relationship with who've done it maybe longer than you have at this level?
Yeah, I think there's huge value in that, and I've gotten to know some of these guys over the years. I managed against John Schneider in the minor leagues a long time, and or I guess for a couple years, but he's great. He's a buddy of mine, and
he was a Fisher cat, right?
Yeah, his team was incredible. It was the whole team that he took to the World Series this year, pretty much. But Clayton McCullough, I just was talking with him yesterday. He's a great guy. I don't know. They just across the board, it's good men to pick their brain. Yeah.
Well, very good. As I let you go, happy Thanksgiving, first and foremost. Christmas is around the corner, and I've always felt this in the game of baseball. I tell people, the first few months after the season, kind of move at a leisurely pace. It seems like when you hit January 1st, it's like 9,000 miles an hour to spring training. That's as a broadcaster. I can't imagine what it's like for you as a manager, but what's on that long to-do list as you lead up to February in Scottsdale?
Well, happy Thanksgiving to you too, Drew. But the first thing that we have to get the staff right. I mean, I think that's first and foremost on the priority list. And then we got winter meetings I've never been. So it'd be my first time going to winter meetings. I think that's December 7th. So that's coming up here in a couple weeks. After that, I don't know. I want to take a trip to the Dominican, to see the boys down there. I'm sure we're going to have certain camps in January out there in Arizona, maybe pitching camps. We got to talk about all this stuff, but there's going to be a lot going on, and we got a lot of work to do. And I expect to be tired every night. That's I think every man should be. But this is going to take a lot of work, and I can't wait. I love it. I love work, Drew.
You want to know what? I was chuckling to myself when you said, I'm going to be tired at the end of the day. I'm going to get a lot of work in. I have never known you not to get extract everything out of the 24 hours that we were all given each day, man. It's one of the things I respect and admire the most about you. So you may have to move those weight room workouts up to, 0400 or something.
All right. That sounds good, Drew. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
And by the way, I'll probably see you at winter meetings as well. But once again, first and foremost, congrats. Enjoy the family. Happy Turkey Day and early Merry Christmas to you.
Thanks, Drew.
A big thanks to Warren Schaeffer. Excited for him. I'm not excited yet for spring training because it's still a ways off, and I'm enjoying the off season. I will be down at the winter meetings, and look forward to hearing about more changes that are coming the Rockies' way. And he mentioned a couple of names on there. Clayton McCullough, Skip Schumacher was on the sideline last year, but now is returning to a managerial post in Arlington with the Rangers. These are relatively young folks in the game that were really well thought of. And their resume and their inside the game, their reputation, not different from Warren Schaeffer. And so I think when you look at this, you say, oh, yeah, Clayton McCullough, he's with the Dodgers and well thought of and, good job down in Miami. And you look at the situation with what Texas did and Skip Schumacher. Those are young, dynamic, strong personalities that were given an opportunity. But because the Rockies were so bad last year and bad in 24 and bad in 23, you just assume, more of the same. Give Warren Schaeffer a chance. Warren Schaeffer took over, early midseason. And again, it wouldn't have mattered who the manager was. And next year, it's not like there's going to be a 50-game turnaround. It's a process. But I'm a fan of his, and I'm glad that he's getting the opportunity. And let's see how it all plays out. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everyone. We'll probably take a little time off because I'm headed on a little vacation then to the winter meetings. But we'll check in from there, hopefully, in about 10 days, 2 weeks, somewhere in that time frame. Enjoy your family, everyone. Take care.